is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.
All right, we are on.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another FPVFC Town Hall. So we've got some interesting stuff, some controversial stuff, and we got some fun stuff as well. So we'll get started this evening. Obviously, we've got Dave, Dan, Alex, and myself. I believe Rob is traveling, so won't be able to join us. And I believe Blunty will not be here either. But we're here with you, and we're happy you're here with us. So let me get this rolling here. So I think last week we talked about the world speed record, and so in true characteristic back and forth fashion that's been going on with this, and I feel like a sports announcer right now. Ben Biggs of Australia hit an unofficial 690 kilometers an hour with his drone. So Australian aerospace engineer Benjamin Biggs, and the Drone Pro Hub team are back weeks after Luke Maximo Bell reclaimed the Guinness World Record for fastest drone with his Peregrine V4 at 657.59 kilometers an hour, which is 408 miles per hour. Biggs took his upgraded Blackbird to the Australian outback and hit a peak GPS speed of 690 on his second run. His estimated 100-meter average comes in around 661 kilometers per hour, roughly 410.7 miles per hour, 3 kilometers per hour faster than Bell's official record. There's a catch. This was an unofficial attempt. Let me see if I can get this back. This was an unofficial attempt. Biggs followed Guinness World Record guidelines, but could not secure the required professional drone pilot witnesses on a Thursday morning in rural Australia. The speed is real. The record status is not. Go ahead, Dave. You had something?
I didn't. I think that was Alex.
Okay. I just did a because that's kind of where I'm at with the endurance drone. It's unofficial, but there's proof.
It's there. But
Did
it's
everything,
right?
Just wasn't observed by the right people.
Yeah. Hey,
Right.
Alex, 408 miles an hour? They're getting close to the maximum velocity of a prop-driven aircraft, aren't they?
No. NASA did some testing in the late 40s, early 50s, getting up to 600 some. They broke the sound barrier with prop-driven aircraft.
At what altitude, though?
I don't know the altitude, but I'm curious when one of these is going to break the sound barrier, because that's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's another at
it was a turboprop
speed level
plane,
that has to be another 300 miles an hour, I believe. Mach 1.
But there are propellers designed for supersonic speed. At least NACA did some testing on those. It's a fun report to read.
Definitely, yeah. So this is my comments on this is I am so impressed with these two teams. They're gentlemanly. This is absolutely what I need, as a break from the calamity of the rest of the world, and it's great. And the other team, Luke, water-cooled ESCs. Whoa. Yeah. So, and of course, the shapes are classic teardrop. So no surprise they're there. They're very aerodynamic. So yeah, thank you for
So
bringing this one up.
I did a quick Google search. So the Tupolev Tu-95 bomber and its derivatives, the Tu-114 and the Tu-142, are generally considered the fastest production propeller-driven aircraft, while the experimental Republic XF-84H Thunder Screech holds the record for the fastest experimental aircraft, though its top speed is disputed. The official speed record for a piston engine aircraft is held by a modified P-51 Mustang, because they are the most badass planes ever made, named Voodoo, and that's a cool ass name.
Yeah, I think that one raced. Yeah.
So the Tu-95 has a maximum speed of 575 miles per hour. So they still got a ways to go. 925 kilometers an hour. And then let's see, the Tu-95, Tu-14 reached an official 541. The Thunder Screech reportedly reached speeds up to 623 miles an hour. And then the P-51 Mustang, which reached an average speed of 531.53. That was the one specific one named Voodoo. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Very
So
cool. Yeah, even flying our model, even at the fastest I've flown a model airplane is 104 miles an hour. And it's so fast. It's just you consume so much airspace so quickly. So this is 4 times that. Just I cannot imagine. It's wonderful.
yeah, that's insane. So let's see. The most interesting engineering detail from this attempt is the motor choice. Biggs is running AAX 2826 competition motors, custom wound by AAX, with extra long leads that feed directly through the arms and solder straight to the speed controllers. No additional wiring, no unnecessary weight. The arms stay as thin as possible. These are the same family of motors Bell tested for his Peregrine V4. In that comparison, Bell bench tested the AOS Supernova 3220s, the AMX 2826, and T-Motor 3120 side by side. The AMX 2826 was one of the 3 options Bell ultimately passed on, choosing the T-Motor 3120 for its thermal stability and lower wear after repeated high-speed passes. Biggs went the other direction. He asked AAX for higher kV windings, accepting the trade-off of potentially more heat for more raw RPM at the top end. The gamble paid off. His motors peaked at 34,000 RPM during the 690 kilometer per hour pass and came back warm, not burning hot. Bottom motors still ran hotter than the top pair, a recurring pattern in polar configuration speed drones where the lower motors ingest turbulent air from the frame. So yeah.
So why not just roll to inverted?
Well, he kind of did. So it says here, Biggs runs a polar configuration with motors mounted at the front of the arms instead of the rear. This gives the propellers clean, undisturbed air to work with, which improves efficiency at extreme speeds, where even small aerodynamic losses compound rapidly. For this run, he made one significant change from previous attempts. He flipped the entire drone's orientation. He remounted the camera, repositioned the GPS module to the top, and reversed the layout so that the aerodynamic vent now sits at the top. The theory is that placing the drag point on top instead of the bottom causes the drone to pitch up naturally under load, which helps all 4 motors spin at a more consistent speed rather than having the bottom pair work harder to compensate for downward pitching forces.
It would be interesting if they programmed it to do this like slow roll throughout the entire speed run, just to keep every motor more consistent.
Love that.
But what would that do to the? I mean, just just I don't even know what you would measure.
Maybe
but
that would take away too much of the other power.
Yeah, you know.
Well, if you made the arms so that they were also propeller when it's spun to.
Ah, there you go.
Good one,
Alex.
Alex.
Send him a note, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking is I just build one of these and I fly it in the Arctic where it's negative 40 or it's 40 below, and
Yeah.
then
No
I don't have
problem
to worry about
cooling.
cooling, right?
Just
Yes.
retrieval is difficult.
I don't know if they say what the temperature was there, but I know Australia has been really hot lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's their
And
summer right now. So
the other fella's in South Africa, Luke.
Mhm.
yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So this gives the timeline here. So in April 2024, we had a record set by Luke and Mike Bell at 480. And then April 2025, a year later, Samuel Goby with a custom build did 557. And then June 2025, just shortly after, Luke took it back at 585. December 8th, Benjamin took it at 626. Luke took it back at 500 or 657.59, and then an unofficial run from Ben at 661 average. So that's pretty crazy.
Awesome.
So pretty cool. All right, next. So the Pentagon picks 25 vendors to show off one-way attack drones in the Gauntlet competition. So after military operators fly the drones, the department plans to award deals totaling $150 million. So the Pentagon is asking 25 companies to demo their unmanned one-way attack drones at an upcoming evaluation event that will help determine a future prototype to buy it. As part of the first phase of the Drone Dominance Program, the Department of Defense said it will conduct the Gauntlet from mid-February into March at Fort Benning, Georgia. There, military operators will fly and evaluate the low-cost drones to help decide who received a share of orders expected to total $150 million. Those that make the cut will then have 5 months to deliver the aero weapons to the military. Drone Dominance operationalized the Secretary of War's acquisition reform priorities by sending a clear demand signal to industry, $1.1 billion over 4 phases, placing warfighters at the center of evaluation and driving competitive, iterative cycles measured in months, not years, the Pentagon announcement said. Across the program's 4 phases, unit prices decrease, production volumes increase, and operational capability rises. Details about the upcoming test plan come following an early June 2025 executive order from the White House dubbed Unleashing American Drone Domination, focusing more broadly on commercial UAS. The next month, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth inked his own Unleashing U.S. Military Drone Dominance memo, in which he directed every Army squad to be armed with small one-way attack drones by the end of fiscal 2026. While global military drone production skyrocketed over the last 3 years, the previous administration deployed red tape, Hegseth wrote at the time. U.S. units are not outfitted with the lethal small drones the modern battlefield requires. The directives support our industrial base, reform acquisition, and field new technology for the warfighter, he added. Lethality will not be hindered by self-imposed restrictions, especially when it comes to harnessing technologies we invented but were slow to pursue. So, according to the DoD, the 25 companies selected for the next stage of the Drone Dominance Program are Nano AI, Ascent Aero Systems, Auterian Government Solutions, Design Technologies, Ewing Aerospace, Farage Precision, Firestorm Labs, General Cherry Corp, Greensight, Griffin Aerospace, Halo Aeronautics, Kratos, Modal AI, Napa Tree Technology, Neros. We've talked about them a little bit. Oxy Ventures, Paladin Defense Services, Performance DroneWorks, Responsibility Limited, Swarm Defense Technologies, Teal Drones, Ukrainian Defense Drones, Vector Defense, WS Darley and Company, and Extend Reality. So those are the 25 companies that were selected for this next run. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so we're knowledgeable of a couple of these companies, and certainly understanding and having worked on the civilian side of federal procurement, as well as 3-letter organizations in the federal government. Procurement cycles have historically been very, very long. So I I agree. The procurement cycles on this program have been staggering, and that this many companies, this is the first cut. So many more companies than this, submitted designs, and they were designs that flew. So pretty impressive stuff, and hopefully there's some spillover for recreational that we could benefit from. So I'm okay if the flow of products goes in that direction.
Yep.
And, props to
Absolutely.
the person who wrote this article for calling the Department of Defense by their real name,
Here, here.
Department of Defense.
Right. It's not been changed by Congress. They're officially the Department of Defense.
Mm-hmm. All right. On that same note, Marine was awarded for designing the Corps' first fully NDAA compliant 3D printed drone at $700 a pop. Marine Sergeant Henry David Volpe, an automotive maintenance technician with the 2nd Marine Logistics Group out of Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, was credited as having led the development of the Hanks drone, which can be modified for different military tasks and can carry a 1 kilogram payload. At roughly $700 per base model, the Hanks platform is the Marine Corps' first 3D printed drone that complies with laws prohibiting the U.S. military from acquiring and using unmanned aerial systems with parts from certain foreign entities, according to the service.
Except the battery.
Marines,
Yeah.
yeah.
The battery Gen Z made in China by Tattoo. Well, I guess Gen Z makes Tattoo, not the other way around. But
Yeah, 100%. Marine Sergeant Henry David Volpe, an automotive maintenance technician with the 2nd Marine Logistics Corps, was credited as having led the development, which can be modified for different tasks, taking his previous experience with 3D printing to the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force Innovation Campus, the unit's hub for Marines to tinker with design modeling, robotics, and manufacturing to come up with solutions for ground-level problems. Volpe got to work on developing Hanks to include ensuring it complies with the NDAA. Anyone can create a cheap drone using cheap, non-approved parts. Volpe, for whom Hanks is named after, said in a service press release. However, finding parts that don't run the risk of having backdoor software is difficult. A spokesperson for his unit told Defense Scoop that Volpe is set to receive the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal for his efforts.
Good
Go
for
ahead,
him.
Dave.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Right? To me, this is a young man. This is doing what he's doing. He's obviously a technician, and you don't have a lot of extra time, so he found some time to do this and good skills. And my hat's off to him.
Yep, 100%. So pretty cool. 3D printing's coming a long way. I remember when I first got into this hobby, people were talking about 3D printing and can you build a drone 3D printing? And the answer was almost
Absolutely
universally
not.
no.
Yeah, I remember lots of
Right?
live streams with Joshua Bardwell where people were asking about 3D printing. He's just like, no, you
Don't do it.
Yeah.
can't. And here's examples, and here's where people tried, and here's where they just
Yeah.
wobble and fall apart.
Yeah.
But material sciences has come a long way, and that's trickled down to the consumer level where 3D printing is just
Yeah, I was
off the
watching-
chain right
I
now.
was watching a build where a guy was designing an intake manifold, and I was like, for an internal combustion engine.
I suppose
Yeah.
even if 3D printing itself hasn't gotten that much better, the controllers, the software is able to handle a frame that's not as stiff or solid as a carbon fiber frame and probably still fly okay.
Right.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and a lot of the military drones are consumables. They're
Mhm.
fly once.
Yeah.
So they can be lighter, and if they hang together, in one direction, that's all you need.
Yeah, if I
Yep.
3D
you're
printed
ready.
a frame, I'd want the drone to be able to handle a harsh landing. If they're flying it once and it lands
Yeah.
and explodes, oh well.
That was
Get a different
mission
one.
accomplished. Right.
Like if they're going for plastic frames for cheap and high volume, I think they should try to switch to injection molding because that you'll crank
some
out
point.
a ton really quickly and
Right.
don't have to worry about all the time. That would be a lot faster than 3D printing
Manufacturing
for that
time.
Oh,
volume.
absolutely.
Yep.
But from a design iteration phase, 3D printing makes
Mhm.
perfect sense until you get to like, hey, this is our final form. Then we move over to molds and all that stuff because mold making is not
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, unless they
All
had some
right.
problem like, well,
Well,
we can
you
get
could
the
use 3D printing to make a mold.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, mold. Yeah,
Yep.
injection molding is. I agree with Josh. It's very expensive, and it's a fraction of what it used to be in the 80s.
Mhm.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars for a mold, and now it's it's 5, 10. So it's a lot less. Even when especially when you factor in inflation. So yeah, you can be done.
Wonder which props those are, because those kind of look like GemFan a bit, or HQ.
Yes,
I
they
don't know,
do.
just curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that it's the recipe of the plastic that is because obviously the shape of our it's easy enough to either reverse engineer or come up with your own design on a prop, but making ones that don't disintegrate at high revs or can withstand some level of abuse hitting the ground, but also remain sufficiently rigid so that they can push air and they're not bending all over the place.
So the props were probably not manufactured in the United States, but they're also not worried about them having back doors in them.
Not
Here,
yet.
here. Yeah, but yeah, hey, maybe we could ask the FCC if they want to put them on the covered list.
Because the noise they make is a frequency.
That's it must be a communications device.
They definitely
Yeah.
communicate over sound.
Yeah. Awesome. Some update on the FCC ban a little later.
All right. So this probably lead to some controversy. However, I don't want to be remiss and not cover this. So the FAA limits drones over DHS assets, igniting civil liberty concerns. So news organizations, advocacy groups, including the American Civil Liberties Union, and even former FAA officials are sounding the alarm on what could be the most sweeping prohibition on UAS activity across the United States ever imposed. That's how the News Media Coalition, which includes Electronic Frontier Foundation, Getty Images, National Press Photographers Association, and publishers of major newspapers such as the New York Times and Washington Post. Uh, they described FAA temporary flight restrictions that penalizes the operations of drones, including those used for news gathering, near Department of Homeland Security mobile assets.
Those are some big names.
Yeah, they are. TFRs can cover non-fixed assets, such as stadiums that host major professional sporting events like the Super Bowl. Air Force One usually travels within a 30 nautical mile TFR like a giant bubble. Typically, though, the FAA tells drone pilots exactly where they cannot fly. The restrictions around DHS mobile assets implemented under the guise of national security are more ambiguous, covering vessels and ground vehicle convoys and their associated escorts, and granting authority to seize or intercept a UAS if it is deemed a threat to personnel. Violators could face fines, prison time, or the loss of their drone or remote pilot authorization. Observers worry about how the TFR could be implemented amidst the backdrop of immigration and customs enforcement raids taking place across the U.S. in cities such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and Minneapolis. The News Media Coalition said it violates the First and Fifth Amendments and calls for the FAA to lift it immediately. Don Zoldi, a 28-year U.S. Air Force veteran and CEO of a tech consulting firm, wrote in an op-ed that the lack of definition around associated escorts creates a roving, invisible, and potentially retroactive bubble around any operation that DHS or partners decide to treat as sensitive. The TFR seems to warn that anyone flying a drone anywhere in the country would be in violation if ICE or Border Patrol convoy decides to drive beneath them. Jay Stanley, senior policy analyst of the ACLU Speech Privacy and Technology Project, wrote in his analysis on Thursday.
And by beneath, they mean within 3,000 feet of.
Yes.
Which, isn't exact. You usually think, oh, yeah, beneath, like it's right above you. No, it's like pretty far away.
Such drive under is actually quite likely in places where thousands of immigration agents are rampaging through neighborhoods such as Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yeah, and so I'll throw out there, a week ago, someone in the town I live in was taken into custody for observing ICE agents. And that was within 3,000 feet of my local FRIA. Had I been out there flying, I would have been clearly in violation of this. Not that they would have come and done anything, but I easily could have been violating this TFR without knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The TFR is described in a notice to airmen, FDC 6/4375, that replaced a previous NOTAM. Brendan Youngblood, the former head of the FAA Air Traffic Organization's UAS Security and Counter UAS Integration Office, which wrote the original NOTAM, explained that it was previously limited to naval vessels operating in U.S. coastal waters and Department of Energy assets moving nuclear materials. It was never meant to cover all DHS ground assets, which are literally everywhere, Youngblood wrote in a LinkedIn comment. The TFR designates as national defense airspace any airspace within 1,000 feet vertically or 3,000 feet horizontally of DHS facilities and mobile assets, prohibiting UAS from flying within it unless separately authorized. Per guidance from the FAA's UAS Support Center, at any time during an operation, if the remote pilot/operator is approached by a federal agent and advised that they are operating within a TFR, then the remote pilot operator should cease operations. If you see a federal agent via drone, you're more than likely violating national security airspace, Youngblood said in another comment. It's essentially just shut down Minneapolis and other cities' airspace with federal agents dispersed throughout the city. There is no way for the FAA to populate these restrictions on a map without highlighting the exact position of federal agents. Youngblood also commented that the TFR conflicts with airspace use rights granted to U.S. citizens under federal law. The News Media Coalition agrees that it is difficult, if not impossible, to imagine how any UAS operator could know at any given moment whether they are operating inside the airspace covered by the TFR. The group said it has yet to find an FAA point of contact for journalists to request access to restricted airspace, despite several phone calls and emails. The use by immigration enforcement officials of unmarked and frequently rented vehicles and the lack of advance notice of their location compounds the problem of compliance. Youngblood and other observers, such as the Commercial Drone Alliance, said the TFR could even hit operators that are otherwise compliant with regulations. Commercial drone delivery, inspection, and photography services, as well as drone as first responder law enforcement programs, could all be impacted. The Commercial Drone Alliance is inquiring with federal regulators to ensure authorized commercial and public safety drone operators have the information they need to remain compliant, but in the meantime, operators should be aware of these new restrictions and plan accordingly, the group said in a statement. According to Zoldi, whether the TFR stands will depend on how it's implemented. If it covers all UAS operations, the government could say the restriction is content neutral or tied to a time, place, and manner rather than a specific message. If instead it becomes a tool to push news drones out of the sky whenever coverage becomes uncomfortable, expect litigation, Zoldi wrote. Youngblood likewise said selective enforcement greatly reduces the TFR's legal defensibility and deterrence from operators entering in the first place. If a court deems the enforcement to be content-based, it could require the government to show a compelling need for the TFR and prove it is using the least restrictive methods possible. Most laws cannot survive that standard of review. Courts could also deem the 1,000-foot vertical and 3,000-foot lateral standoff distance to be overly restrictive. News organizations may be prevented from acquiring aerial footage of non-DHS assets when it cannot be captured on the ground. A judge could rule that it infringes on First Amendment rights protecting news gathering. Nearly every federal court of appeals has recognized the First Amendment right to film law enforcement performing their duties, the News Media Coalition wrote. So yeah, this is a pretty big deal. So
the CDA quote is, I'm embarrassed. The CDA is usually a little smarter than that. And so the Commercial Drone Alliance is inquiring, yada, yada, yada. Plan your flights accordingly. The only way that you can remain completely compliant with this NOTAM is to not fly. So you don't know where the mobile assets are. And if they move past you 3,000 feet away and you're flying, you're not in compliance. So that statement is embarrassing. It doesn't help their membership. So we've complained to the FAA, DSPA's complained, Pilot Institute. We have heard from the FAA. I spoke with an FAA official. They tell us that changes are coming. My response, right now is this is another instance where a federal agency has performed a draw, fire, aim. If we understand that the FAA is under enormous pressure from DHS as well as DOD, and in this instance, DHS, but why do you push something out the door that is not enforceable, doesn't make sense? This is, and certainly this is a NOTAM and a TFR that many people will ignore just because they have to continue their business. And if they ignore it, they risk, just as Josh said, not only civil violations, but criminal violations, as well as counter UAS activities where their aircraft can be taken out of the sky. And we know for sure, we've seen it just when times are more easygoing and pleasant. We've seen pilots being assaulted. So now we have a situation that could be really volatile. So we take this very seriously. We're not, I'm a paranoid personality, but this is one where it's very frustrating, and we will continue to work and call on the FAA to change this NOTAM. This absolutely is a violation of rights. This is absolutely overreach, and it cannot be adequately enforced, because what it implies is a nationwide ban of all drone flights.
Yeah, that's pretty restrictive.
Yeah.
It's goofy. So
Yeah.
all right. On to something a little more interesting. Well, not more interesting, but maybe a little more casual. Let's put it that way. We've got ST Engineering debuts a new medium lift UAS. Singapore Technologies Engineering continues to expand its aerospace offerings with a renewed focus on artificial intelligence and autonomous technologies. Speaking to reporters on the eve of the Singapore Air Show, the company noted that such multidisciplinary capabilities remain essential across various domains, and acknowledged that these technologies are growing increasingly relevant on the battlefield. An example of ST Engineering's autonomous innovation is the DRN 600 uncrewed aerial system. Its largest cargo drone to date, which has been in development for 2 years. The lift and cruise configured aircraft features propeller-enabled thrust vectoring and swappable lithium polymer batteries that provide a range up to 120 kilometers. A 1.5 cubic meter cargo space can accommodate up to 100 kilos on standard pallets.
Looks cool, but also dangerous.
Yeah, it sure does.
Who cares about danger when it's fun?
Flight testing of the DRN 600 will be conducted at an as yet unspecified location outside of Singapore, a company representative told AIN. Certification is targeted for 2028, building on commercial or operational experience accumulated since 2018 with smaller UAS variants. ST Engineering intends to gather additional insight and customer feedback from operational trials with a prototype prior to entry into service. So this is a pretty cool little thing. They say thrust vectoring. I'm going to kind of zoom in here and see if I can get a little closer on this picture. So you can kind of see the wings are like they have an up angle to them.
High alpha.
Yeah. So when it tilts forward, it's getting more of that. And I'm curious if the propellers tilt forward as well to help.
Well, I assume it looks like the propellers, I think it just operates as no, I don't think the propellers are actually rotating. It looks like when the wings level, the propellers are slightly angled forward. So you're getting the forward thrust from that naturally. And then so you're sharing lift from the propellers and the wing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'd be curious as to what the weight of the aircraft is unloaded.
Let's see here.
Yeah. What's 250 million?
Pretty cool though. I thought that was pretty neat.
Definitely cool.
Also, Can I ride in it?
Just have to hop into one of those boxes there and get stuffed inside.
There you go. We'll just put you in a
I-
cargo container.
I'm less than 100 kilograms.
All right. All right. The drone industry's next bottleneck isn't the aircraft. Why networks, chips, and trusted infrastructure will decide who scales. As governments tighten rules around trusted technology and assess the risks of high risk vendors, it's become clear that modern digital infrastructure is deeply interdependent. No single nation controls the full stack of advanced networks, chips, software, and cloud systems that power key technologies. That reality is starting to shape not just telecom and data centers, but also the future of commercial drone operations. In a Reuters interview, Nokia's CEO underscored this dynamic, saying, Europe and the United States are codependent for technology leadership and secure alternatives to restricted suppliers. His comments were framed around telecom infrastructure, where only a few trusted vendors now operate at scale after bans on certain competitors. For the drone industry, this is significant. Unmanned aircraft today are not isolated machines. They increasingly sit atop layered technology stacks that include cellular connectivity, cloud fleet management, edge compute, and AI analytics. As policymakers treat those layers as critical infrastructure, drone manufacturers and operators are being pulled into the same supply chain, security, and procurement conversations, shaping a new ecosystem. So it goes on to talk about, network drones, which we all know that's where things are going. Semiconductors, which we know a lot of those are made overseas. We do have some onshoring of that, but a lot of that is coming from other places. Made here to trusted everywhere. For years, drone procurement debates largely centered on where an aircraft was manufactured. That question is not disappearing, but is no longer sufficient on its own. As drones become more tightly integrated with networks, cloud platforms, and advanced computing hardware, evaluations are expanding to include the full technology stack. The stack level perspective looks beyond the airframe to connectivity and network security, compute hardware and chip provenance, cloud and data infrastructure, software integrity, and cybersecurity practices. Rather than asking only where a drone is assembled, buyers are increasingly asking whether the entire system meets expectations for security, resilience, and supply chain transparency. So, it's obviously getting a little bit crazy out there.
What's
They don't ask the
interesting?
same thing about their phone.
Yeah. What's interesting is I didn't hear a lot of discussion on the unmanned traffic management system and the illustrious Part 146. It remains problematic, and so we're anticipating a release of the Beyond Visual Line of Sight rule approximately August of this year, and we perceive that the UTM component of that will be the same basket case that was defined in Part 146. So my estimate is 5 to 10 years before that's in effect. So we have a bit of a wait before we can catch up with the rest of the world probably on unmanned traffic management.
Yeah. It's getting kind of crazy. All right. Dave, you want to talk about this? I gave it a glance and it just seems like a bunch of nonsense to me. This is the research to support establishing a national strategy for transportation digital infrastructure. And it has a mention of drones in here, but it's like incredibly vague on where it's going here.
Yeah,
It uses lots of terms that I feel like you have to know the definition of before you understand the sentence.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And not that I don't understand the
Well,
terms. It's just
It's like, well, what's
it's
digital
very all over the place.
infrastructure? Like,
Right.
what do
Yeah.
they mean by that?
Exactly. Yeah, this felt so much like Washington speak. I read it and I was like, oh boy, here we go. And so this is going to be interesting because we have complained loudly during the Beyond Visual Line of Sight Aviation Rulemaking Committee. We complained very loudly on the beyond visual line of sight notice for public rulemaking, and other times to the FAA about the antiquated way they approach IT, information technology. So, this is something that we've observed. It does not appear that the Department of Transportation has an exquisite and elegant set of IT infrastructures that are driving the strategy. So to go about a strategy like this, because granted, the DOT, including the FAA, need a restructuring and just to revamp their information technology infrastructure. But oh my gosh, this now that they're going to design it by a committee, and so the of note to me was the turnaround. I believe comments on this document are due in March, so this is an extraordinarily short period of time. Now, what does that tell us? I would assert that it means that they already have this figured out to some extent, and this is doing the appropriate paper trail that says, oh well, we put this out for RFI and RFQ, when in point of fact the work is largely moving forward. This is much like the beyond visual line of sight work, where a lot of the software theoretically worked. Of course, it was in a refined subset of the production operation. So we'll see what happens on this. But this one, this is just another flood the zone in my book, that with this very, very brief comeback on comments.
And there's some really ridiculous questions like this one in the middle of the screen there, number 4. How can AI applications be safely deployed to accommodate data exchange and data use across jurisdictional boundaries? Like, you don't need AI to exchange data across boundaries. Like, it's just like, why throw AI in there? That makes no sense at all. And also, if you have AI that has anything to do with human safety and transportation, I think that's just a non-starter. Just no.
Don't do that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. So as I previously noted on our last town hall, I was asked to end.
I had one thing. I'm not.
Oh,
if
yeah,
I
go
could
for it.
add one point, which is the FAA document DA 25-1086, which was issued on December 22nd, 2025, had an update on January 7th. This is the component ban. And so this is the FCC's covered list that bans foreign manufacture of UAS critical components. So I think we may have talked about this briefly in the past. I was able to talk to the FCC about this. Their response to us was, yes, they agree that the FCC's mission is limited to communications, equipment, and services. And however, a number of the items in the UAS critical list are outside of this. So they're maintaining that enforcement will be limited to communication devices and services. Yet the other elements still remain on the covered list. So that whole sentence didn't make a lot of sense, but that's where we are with the FCC ban. There are also a number of complaints on the DA 25-1086. We're hoping that that might be refined. They did talk about categorical changes, and that's what was issued on January 7. And they were emphatic that no more categorical additions or exceptions would be granted, as they were to blue UAS or domestic end use. But they would absolutely encourage individual exceptions. So if an individual manufacturer wants to apply for an exception, they encourage organizations to do that. So if anyone is a manufacturer, we've got some of the details of what you need to lay down in the application. It's a free form application, and who to send it to. Lots of cautions whether you want to do this or not, but that's the FCC's component in this. So,
Yeah, so when I hear what you say about the FCC, my interpretation is the FCC is saying, we're not really allowed to do this. We're going to do this anyway, and no one's going to stop us.
yeah, and to underscore that, as we recall back in April, we did talk about this a couple of weeks ago. The Department of Commerce had an advanced NPRM where they were working on pretty much this same thing. They have subsequently stopped work and pulled that work on that rule from the Department of Commerce, where if you're going to restrict manufacturers from foreign manufacturers, that's where you would do the work in the Department of Commerce, not the FCC. So yeah, we have well, they're blurring, and this is important because this is about statute. This is the law that sets the boundaries for the individual agencies. So if the FCC starts working and performing overreach, that's a violation of the law. So this is serious.
And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the head of the FCC is more Trump friendly than the head of the other department. And so that's where they're pushing things.
Yes. So
All right.
on that cheery note,
Yeah.
a good
I wasn't gonna
a
end the
good-
show. I was just gonna end the news segment.
right, a good segment.
All right. So let me get this back up here. Before I do this, I might as well go the route here. Do we have? Let's see.
I have just one more item that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, go for it.
Where, as folks may know, we talked about. Oh, we heard that there might be a new window on the Beyond Visual Line of Sight Notice for Public Rulemaking. There was a brief 2-week window opened for comments. It is exclusively 7 questions that have to do with electronic conspicuity. I didn't say it right.
Close enough.
Conspicuity.
Thank you, Alex. So we've drafted a response. We have the benefit of sitting on the ASTM remote ID work group. Last week we had our session, and so these are some really sharp engineers from around the world, and we took the entire discussion on this NPRM and talking about EC. So that helped us inform ourselves a little bit better. In addition, we've had a number of good discussions with our colleagues across the Drone Advisory Council, which is comprised of Aloft, Pilot Institute, DSBA, Drone, and I can never remember Tom Adams' counter UAS company. But good technology, smart people will respond. It does not have a ton to do with recreational, other than it's likely knock-on technology that we would be expected to pick up were we ever to fly Part 108. So I just wanted to mention that when folks ask, well, what is FPVFC doing? That's one of the things that we're working on.
Yep. All right, Dan, you got anything for us, brother?
Nope, nothing from me this time.
All right, Alex, anything from you, sir?
Not really. Just a cool video that I saw that I just sent in the chat.
Okay. Let me get it pulled up here.
Well, that's coming up. Indoor races with Whoops are happening. Whooptopia is coming up, and then there's a Northeast Championship coming up in March. So fun times in.
You going to be attending any of that?
FPV racing. I'm going to try to attend the one in Syracuse, New York, in March. It'll only be a 4-hour drive. The Whooptopia is in Arizona.
That'd be a little farther drive.
It would, but it's warmer. I'm a little nervous about I'm gonna have to keep the snows on the car to get up to Syracuse in March.
I don't know. Arizona in April, that's probably already over 100 degrees by now, right?
Nah, not quite. But we're
Close.
getting there. We're getting there. It's like it was 80 degrees. I was walking out. We went to where did we go yesterday? Shields. We were walking into the store, and I'm like, "What is this winter? Why am I not in a hoodie?"
Oh my gosh. Oh my
It's
gosh.
been like 13 here.
It's funny.
Balmy.
All
Ooh,
right,
look at
so
this.
real quick, this is Alex's video. Can you switch from an FP? Well, it's not Alex's. He didn't make the
No,
video.
I did
This is the
not.
one he brought to the table, though. Can you switch from an FPV drone to an onboard shot in one seamless move? Here's the answer. Using AI to achieve previously impossible shots is pushing creativity to the next level. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dunk. And with the drone still flying behind it. I love it.
Yeah. Like just that combination of shots is like really cool.
Unbelievable.
Because
That's
like
pretty neat.
going from the drone to the fixed point on the on the vehicle.
Wow.
That is super cool.
Saw that and I was like, wow, that's really cool and impressive. And
All
the AI is
right.
only used for the transition. The flying is all human.
Yeah, so they had to fly and get really close to that spot, and then yeah, it just kind of makes up that little bit of
Exactly.
difference between the two that you'd normally see.
That's beautiful. So cool.
All right. So now it's my turn. We're going to end on this cool shot. So the guys asked me to end for drones for good. This is, I mean, I
Or
guess
for entertainment.
depending on what your version is, but this is drones for cool.
Oh, WRC. I'm such a fan.
So this is the Red Bull drone that famously chased Max Verstappen. Is now doing rally chases. So pretty cool.
Fantastic.
That'd be a fun job to have.
That's a long
Oh my
flight.
gosh.
That's a longer shot than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's like 3 minutes long. Like,
And how
it's
fast
a-
are they
it's a-
going? Like
way over
100 miles an hour?
Way over, yeah.
easily.
These
Yeah.
cars are fast. There's for 500 to 600 horsepower cars. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
they're
little,
pretty
little,
cool.
little cars. Yeah.
Drifting
The
around
guys
those
who-
turns.
Yeah,
and-
the guys who drive WRC are amazing, and more amazing than the drivers are the co-pilots giving them directions.
Yeah.
That they
Yeah,
that they don't.
I don't know if you guys-
immediately get motion sick.
Yeah, I turned off the sound, but it's literally just a constant stream of the
Instructions.
driver giving
Yes,
giving
about the
instructions.
corners that are coming up.
Mhm.
The only thing I can say about this is I know if you get too close to that dust, your camera gets covered really fast.
Yeah.
Well, there's a segment. Let me see if I can dig a little deeper.
It
here.
looks really cool,
Where's
but then
the-
as soon as you
yeah.
get a little bit of sunlight on your lens, like, oh my gosh, my camera's covered in dust.
Yeah.
They do get pretty close here on some of these final turns here.
This is good flying considering the velocity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all by hand. This is not autopilot. This is not free chasing.
It's good.
AI chasing or anything like that. This is a pilot on manual
And
control.
the shadow of the drone makes it look like it's kind of like that arrow shape, 3D printed teardrop shape.
Yeah, this is the Red Bull drone. So same style. Yeah, 100%.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, but with that, guys, thank you for joining me. I know it can't all be good news or great news or anything like that, but we want to bring to you what's happening in the world. So, I feel like I lost my screen. There it went. Goodness, I couldn't find my cameras. So we want to let you know what's going on in the world, and obviously help you fly safely and within the law. Some of the right now it's getting a little risky out there, and I'm not going to lie. But there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. There's component bans, there's flight restrictions and TFRs, and just weirdness happening. And I'm sorry for the times we're in. I didn't create them. However, we have to live in that and do what we can to fix that. So we bring it to you and let you take it from there. So anyway, we can continue to help you. Please let us know. We're striving to challenge our regulators and our officials to make sure they're doing the right thing. But we need your help sometimes, and you may want to reach out to some of your representatives and your senators and honestly be like, WTF, mate. So help us out there. We thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you next time. We'll be here in another 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you very much.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Flying, get on board. We're smiling on top of the world. Dangerous times, don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.